Everybody, welcome back to Huddle Up with Matias Bueno. This is the second episode, and today's guest is none other than former Langley Rams quarterback out of Blaine, Washington High School, born in Vancouver, BC, in a family of athletes with a brother in the CFL, longtime fullback, quarterback lessons, and a young coach on the rise to teach many QBs across both borders of Canada and the United States. Jordan McCarty out of Blaine, Washington, Vancouver, BC. Jordan, welcome to the second episode of Huddle Up.
Man, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
No worries. So we're going to go through a little bit of your background here. So you're born in Vancouver, BC originally, and then you moved to the United States in the 9th grade. Take us through what was the decision. What was the reason behind the decision to go to America, right? You've been exposed in Vancouver, but what made you think that the decision to go to Blaine would take you to the next step?
Man, really, I was pretty lucky. My parents, they really gave me the choice to go to Blaine or stay and continue to St. Thomas More Collegiate. And I had previously met friends in the States by playing AAU basketball in the States, because I love basketball. It's probably my favorite sport at the time. And so it was competitively better for me to play basketball down here. So I did that and ended up meeting friends. And then when that option came about to choose to go to high school here or there, and it was just kind of naturally, growing up as a kid, you see the thing about Friday night lights and the big deal playing Friday nights. And, I decided to go to school in the States, and it was the best thing I ever did.
So you talk about how you love basketball as your first original sport.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you play basketball, AU basketball? And what was the initial experience like being exposed to playing athletics across the border?
Man, so I played AAU basketball up until 8th grade. That's the last year you could play. And the biggest difference was just the physicality level of it. Instead of, playing in Canada, you might have teams playing zone and no press. It's as soon as you cross the line, a team is going to press you the whole game. And that was the biggest difference for sure, is just the intensity and physicality of it. And it helps you for other sports and can definitely, carry over to other things you do. So basketball has always been great for me.
Was basketball something that you shared with your siblings, or was it something that you took on as more of a solo journey in terms of playing the sport? Or what was it about basketball that made you love it from the beginning? And what was the origin of that love?
Man, the origin of the love definitely came from my dad. He played college basketball, went to Bacone College in Oklahoma, and he was a hooper. He never played football, but he later on got into coaching and ended up being pretty good at it for football. But that's where the love came from. And just my brother, we always played basketball, and I think he would probably say it's one of his favorite sports too. Like, a lot of football players like basketball. I don't know what that connection is with it, but it's something about it, and it's just a fun team game.
So you played basketball with your brother, and then he eventually later on played football as well. So when was the transition from basketball to football for you, and what, or was it always something that walked hand in hand with playing the sport?
I didn't start taking football seriously probably until about 11th grade is when I really started feeling I could play football pretty well. I wanted to play basketball. I looked at options college-wise to play basketball, but ended up choosing football because I love it and I got hooked by it. But that's just my path for that regarding that.
And so football, you were playing down in the U.S. You played your first 2 years, and then grade 11 you started taking it seriously. When was the moment playing at Blaine that made you realize? And what was the feeling like saying, "Hey, I could probably take this farther than basketball, or I can really take this to the next level"? And what were those moments, or was there one specific moment that was really an indicator of that?
I would definitely point to definitely 11th grade. My first time starting at the varsity level. Our first 3 games went to triple overtime, all 3 of them, and we ended up losing all 3 of those games in a really close, obviously overtime loss. But I'd never forget that experience of like having to play in an extended game, clutch situations, like must score, and I'll always carry that with me. And later on, we were faced with a tough scenario later on in the season where we had a must-win game to get into the playoffs against a good team. And I'm not kidding. I think those 3 experiences really taught us how to close close out later games in the season that ended up being really tight in the score. So I always point to that moment for sure where I realized, even though it was a loss, like I thought, like I can play, like I can do this. That was the moment for sure.
So, although you guys didn't win those games, it kind of reminds me of the ending of the Friday Night Lights movie, where everyone expects the Cinderella story and the happy ending and happily ever after, and they
Mm-hmm.
lose, but it doesn't dampen their thought of football. And you lost 3 overtime games in a row, and at the end of the day, an L is an L, but
Mm-hmm.
it really taught you so much from what it sounds. And was that, would you say, one of the most powerful moments as a young man when it came to playing sports, and in terms of a teaching moment? Like what
Definitely,
was it
that was
about that
probably
fail? What
like,
was it about that failure that made you feel like
man,
there was a positive from it?
it hurt because those were games that we felt we should have won. And coming into our high school, we were a school that was really good in the '70s. Our lone state title team is from 1978, and our head coach, we had a new head coach when we were freshmen, and we were really proud. And even the guys 3 years ahead of us we wanted to make the program really good, and like we grinded for it. And that was definitely the first moment where it was like that really hurt, but it made us better in the end, I would say for sure. But to go through that in the moment, you don't think of it like, man, this is gonna help, but when you step back really and look at it, you realize what it taught you. So it was necessary, I think.
And how did you guys follow up the next season when you played your senior year at Blaine? Was it even better? Was the
Yep.
success not as good, or how did that turn out from the lessons you guys learned in that previous season?
Man, I would say it was a lot better. So as juniors, we were a pretty young team, like a lot of starting juniors, and we ended up hosting Ferndale, who was a 3A school. We were 11th graders, and they ended up waxing us. I think it was 63-7. And this is like Friday night, like everyone's there, and we get to the scheduling the summer of our junior year, and our coach Dodd, he asked us like, we can kind of pick and choose a little bit of our schedule. And he asked us week 3 if we want to go play in Ferndale, and the season was awesome. We ended up going 7-3. We ended up losing in the quarterfinals, which was definitely premature if you could see our team, but it happens. But we ended up going to Ferndale, and this is a school that hadn't lost a home game in probably about 8 years, and they're a 3A school, we're a 2A school, and we ended up beating them. And I think everything that junior year led up to that moment, just because a lot of teams wouldn't schedule them again, I don't think, if you just got beat by 50 plus the previous year. But so it does, like, I think you could see the character it taught us to, like, let's go into the Lions Den. They beat us at home, let's go to their place. And then, yeah, man, it was amazing. But, once again, all good things come to an end. But we had a heck of a team. We had 26 seniors on the team in our class, so we were pretty heavy at the top, but it was a heck of a season, man.
Take us through a bit of the details of that game against Ferndale, playing in the
Mm-hmm.
Lions Den, and a bit of a bold move, you may say, choosing to play a team that waxed you the year before and
Yeah.
wanting to subject yourself to playing in their barn.
Yep.
What did the course of that game go like? What was the
Man.
feeling walking onto that field?
Our coach, we were his first 4-year group, and he had pretty high expectations for us as a group. And early on in the game, we can't lie to you, we went down 21-7 going into the half, and we got in there at halftime, and man, he chewed us up like never before, because he knew how good we were. Like, he's like, you guys are playing down to this level. What is going on? And he chewed us up like at an all-time good level. And we went out there and we played the second half, and we ended up winning, 28-21. And I don't think they gained more than 30 yards the rest of the game. And we were just assaulting them with passes over the middle, deep fades, outside runs, little things. And that was just the way it went. And just for it to be that way, I think it was the best way. Instead of maybe blowing them out, it wasn't better than, they were beating us, and they had us on the edge there for a while, but we hung in there and we stuck it out, and we really grinded it out, man. When we went to that game, we went with 35 guys on the roster. They have about 60 over there. And think about it, we had 26 seniors on the team. So think about that. How many guys are playing both ways, playing special teams? we went into that game to win it, and that's what we went with. We went with our best 35.
And that sounds like an unbelievable way to win, especially against a top heavy, very heavily favored team at
100%.
home in their own field, in their barn, and being able to win in a way like that is just absolutely insane. So
yeah, you never forget it. It's the little things, like even when we came out the field to first start the game for team intros, you could feel the ground shaking a little bit. Even the game film on the camera the whole time is shaking and bouncing. It was probably the loudest game I've ever played in. I think it was close to about 4,500 people there, and it was unreal. I'll never forget that, and that was one of the best games I think we had as a group, like in that 4-year span. That was one we'll never forget, that's for sure.
Incredible story. And what was the feeling like at the final whistle? Was it did they have the ball at the end, or did you guys kneel it out, or what was the ending like? What was the emotions that overcame you guys?
Man, they had the ball at the end, and we ended up getting a stop on 3rd and long. Actually, one of my best friends named David Craig, all-state safety, ended up making the tackle. And we got the ball with a few seconds left, and we ended up kneeling it out. But I think a lot of us were just mentally and physically exhausted from, like, it was fun to celebrate, but a lot of us were like, holy, like, this happened. Like, it was really exhausting. A lot of guys playing both ways. And I mean, I'm fortunate I played quarterback, so I didn't, but a lot of our other guys played both ways the whole game. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's
it was cool. It was, we had a lot of fans there, but when I look back on it, it was physically and mentally exhausting to have that laser focus for that period of time when it's, you only have a half to work with it. And it was the real deal, man.
so after your graduation from Blaine, you went down to Reedley College just outside of Fresno in
Yep.
California.
Yep.
What was it that sparked the decision to go there versus anywhere else? Were there many other offers, or what was the experience
Yeah.
like in terms of going to Reedley, and why?
So for me, the why, I guess, I'll start from the beginning is, playing maybe 2A football in this Northwest pocket. You don't get a lot of attention. I did have opportunities to go to Southeastern Oklahoma to go to school there. And the only other recruiting opportunity I was getting was actually go to Simon Fraser to play basketball. And I was seriously looking at it. And when I ended up really narrowing down what I wanted to do, and I chose to play football, and I gave those coaches a call down there. They coached my brother a few years prior, and I was like, I want to give this football thing a try. Like, and they welcomed me with open arms, and that's how I ended up going that route.
So now you'd progressed to the next level and still within the United States. Was there an even bigger transition than you anticipated, or what was that initial year like playing college down in the US, especially after playing high school?
It was a really good experience for me. I ended up getting pretty banged up in fall camp and hurting my knee pretty good, so I didn't get activated until about week 6 of the season. And so that was my first experience of having to go through, like, you learn to go get treatment, go to a training room, and your schedule is different. You're not running out to the field to practice. Now you're in the training room trying to make sure you can even get out there and play. And so, man, it was an experience for me. It taught me a lot about, you learn to take care of yourself, but it was an overall experience, man. I loved it. I met some friends for life there. It was a unique experience, only being the only Canadian, maybe, Northwest kid on the team. Everyone else is from California and Atlanta and Florida, all over the Southeast. And it was an amazing experience, man. And I loved every minute of it, man.
What was your favorite moment playing at Reedley College? What was it that was just the pinnacle of being there?
Oh man, there's so many. I think honestly it would just be being in junior college with the guys in the locker room, the bus rides. Like, I would tell you, it's not for everyone. Like, it can be a grind and it's rough sometimes. But I think the pinnacle for me was just being with the guys and being with the team and doing all this stuff together and just sticking together, man. It was tough.
And so after a few years at Reedley College, you lived out the last year before traveling back up north to Canada to play for the Langley Rams in 2014. What was your mindset in terms of entering the season, playing in Langley, playing Canadian football for the first time
Man,
almost
this
ever? Like that must have been a big transition, or not as much? Or what was that like playing
I'd
Canada?
always, kept an eye on Canadian football. And, I played it younger growing up, maybe not to that level of detail, but, through my brother, I always stayed involved with watching it, what's going on. And I'll be honest with you, at first, I didn't have any interest to play junior football at that point. The teams out in Edmonton were interested in me playing junior football. Just about every BCFC team was calling me at the point to try and play. And, at first I told them all no, even including the Rams. I was like, I'm not sure I want to play football. I had my daughter. I had a daughter that was just born, and I was in another, area of focus. And at first I told them no, like, I don't want to play football. And, about a week and a half, 2 weeks goes by, and, Langley coach Jeff Hoda and Eddie Ferg are reaching out. And they're like, man, just come to a practice. Come check it out. And they said, we need a quarterback. We just get a quarterback. We have the pieces. And I ended up going out to the practice. And they asked me, like, you want to sign now? Like, I'm like, no, like, I'm just watching right now. Like, I'm not sold on anything. And about another day went by, and I went out there and showed up to practice, and they signed me up on the spot, geared me up, threw me right in practice. And that's how I ended up playing for him. But at first, I had no interest in it. I was content with just working and spending time with my daughter.
So obviously, again, the importance of focus on raising a family and being there for a child, especially at such a young age, is so important. So what was it that made you then tip over the edge and feel convinced to play for Langley, considering there was such an important task on your hands in your daughter?
Man, I guess it was just the encouragement, from my significant other, my girlfriend. She always said, you're really good at football. You should just play it. And the only reason I did it was I was in a comfortable spot of focus. And honestly, I found it easy to do. Like, I found, it was a really big moment in my life doing that 1 year at the Rams playing. But it, really when you have kids, I guess on the scale of things, it minimizes it. And it was really easy to focus on football, I found. Like, it was really easy to lock in on it and have fun and play.
So I almost remember that the 2014 season. I remember, it seems like so long ago now, but it can also seem like yesterday. The battles that happened within the BCFC that year, especially considering that after the Raiders had kind of come back down to earth and the Rams had started to excel back up to the top. What was the feeling in the locker room with Coach Hoda and with all the guys that you had assembled? You had an unbelievable team with Williams, English, and I can't believe I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting the returner's name. What's unbelievable returner who was from Jacksonville, Florida?
John Beckerleg.
Yes, Beckerleg. Yes. John Beckerleg. Man, that's the last human being in the world I ever wanted to kick a football to. I'll tell you that. But you guys had an unbelievable team, but it seemed at the beginning that maybe it wasn't meant to be. But what was it that changed, or what was the leadership, or what was it about the leadership that changed to make you guys poised to go on a run to beat the Sun, especially after almost losing to Kamloops at home the week before? What was the emotions surrounding that season, especially after all the things that you'd been through in your life up to that point?
Yeah, I think it was just the want to, because the Sun, they dragged us pretty good in the regular season, and it was like, when you look at our roster, it was pretty alarming within the locker room. Like, they were a really good team though. Like, to me, that was one of the best teams I've ever played against, hands down. But they beat us pretty bad in the regular season, and then I think it was just the want to, like, we wanted to beat the Sun. That's all we cared about. And we go through the season, we played some other teams, and we were focused, but our thought was to really, like, we want to play the Sun. And then, like, you brought up the Kamloops game, which was like, that was a real scare. Like, if that team wouldn't have at least went to the Cullen Cup, I think it would have been really disappointing. Like, I think we maybe underestimated them a little bit, but I talked about that focus of maybe not looking past them, but we really, Okanagan, that's all we cared about. And we almost slipped up there, but we snuck it out, and we got to the Cullen Cup, and that was our opportunity to play him again.
And so obviously for those that may not have known, the Cullen Cup, the division title in BC junior football, one of the most prized possessions recently in BC junior football history, for the sole fact that it almost at times seems like the last opportunity to have the euphoria of winning because of the looming dread of playing the monstrous Saskatoon Hilltops.
Yes.
So what was the feeling going into that game, and what was it that made you guys execute to come out on top and be victorious against a team that was unbelievable that year? Okanagan, they were filled with amazing athletes as well. So what was it that made you guys win?
I would say, man, it started with the coaching staff. Coach Hoda, man, I would go to bat for that guy anytime. His confidence and self-belief and just the rest of the staff in unison, I think it was easy to follow in there, and we were confident. We had a good game plan, what we wanted to do. We just had to execute it, and they beat us pretty good the previous times, but like some point of it, a lot of us felt like we were beating ourselves in some points in the game. So it was, I kind of referenced back to, that second half of the Ferndale game. We were laser focused for the whole game, and it's kind of a similar thing. Excitement, you win, but it was exhausting. Like we emptied the gas tank in Okanagan completely to beat them.
What was your favorite part of the game, or more so, what was the moment in which you knew that victory was on the cusp, that it was within reach?
I played a lot of football, and I've been lucky. My dad's a coach, and he's always been a defensive coach. So I've always been looking at defenses for a long time, and we had I think it was about a minute 20 left, and we got the ball back because they were up a score, and they were going to kick a field goal, and they ended up getting a penalty, and it backed them up 5, and it pushed them out of range. And we got the ball back with about a minute 20 left. And I'm not going to say that's the moment I knew we were going to win, but I felt comfortable, like, knowing that at least we have control over it. We felt like our defense was really good, but I felt like we wanted our offense out there. Like, defense did their job. Now it's our turn. So it was a unique feeling, I would say, but definitely the moment we got the ball, like, we knew it was one option. And we converted 2 third downs that drive. And it was a heck of a time, man. If I could point back to one play, I believe it was 2nd and long, and we wanted to go vertical. Obviously, we have Daniel and Malcolm and, an array of other receivers, and we put them both to the boundary, and we said, let's see what they do. And I'll never forget this play because this is what got us down near the goal line. Our O-line was on a pass protection going to the left side of the field, right? And I moved over to the right, and Daniel kind of ran their bender, and the safety paused for a second. And Malcolm's running vertical, man, and they're running step for step, and I threw it. And that was one of the best catches I've ever seen in my life. I threw that ball as far as I could throw it in that moment of time. And he had to dive to catch that. And that play was one of the best plays I've ever seen from a receiver, with the defender right on him. And that was probably the moment I think they realized they were in trouble, and then, handed it off to our running back, and he makes a play and gets in, and, there's about 20 seconds left at that point, and it's absolutely quiet in the stadium. Like, obviously the Rams fans are loud, but it was like, for a moment there, it was like you could hear a pin drop. Like, it was like, did that just happen? Like, but that's how it worked out.
And obviously going back and remembering watching and hearing about what happened to that game and that throw to Malcolm, just absolutely incredible, and still to this day is something that is not and should not be forgotten in terms of the history of the Langley Rams. Such a quintessential moment during a special season where you'd been waxed by Okanagan twice in the regular season, and had the opportunity to play them again in their barn and beat them. And obviously they're still a tough team to beat, hard to beat a team multiple times in the season, 3 times especially, but they still had the advantage and converting on, and it's the little things too, right? You talk about the great throw to Malcolm, but converting on 3rd down twice on the same drive like that.
Yeah. And that was, Daniel getting to the sticks and making a play. Like, we ran a lot of option routes with those guys because it was try and cover them. They'll make a choice. They're smart. So Daniel was getting to the sticks, man, and I was locked in. Like, I'm sitting on this route. Like, this is where I'm going the ball. And and it's, he's good enough where they can't stop it. So, but that was, converting 2 third downs, everything that happened. It was an emotional roller coaster of like, you just never forget it. I think people were just happy the game was over. Like, it was like, whoa, that just happened.
And so a crazy season, and obviously the unfortunate ending in the national championship against the
Yeah.
Hilltops. Tough team. That was when they restarted their stretch of winning multiple titles in a row. Haven't still lost a national title to this day since they've won in that one. But what was the feeling at the end bittersweet from not having won the final game, or what was the consensus around the team after having lost the Hilltops and Langley in the final game?
Yeah, man. I think any game you play, you want to win, and we wanted to win that game. And you'll never make excuses, man. And even that Okanagan team was one of the best teams I've ever played. That Hilltops team we played was legit. They were really good. And, I think I said we emptied the gas tank in Okanagan, and, we're missing a few key pieces, CFL player Dylan Roper, a few things. And we emptied the gas tank all the way in Okanagan. And I think our sole focus was, obviously you want to win a national championship, but we were so locked in on beat Okanagan, and we did that. I'm not saying we got complacent after, but it was like, it definitely sucked losing the national because, you want to win that, but there was also a feeling of like, we did what we partly wanted to do, which is better than nothing, I guess. So, but yeah, it was definitely a tough game to lose because who doesn't want to win that, right? Like,
so and then the next year you went on to, or we're going to go up to University of Alberta and suffer an unfortunate injury that kept you out of your last year. And so then what decision did you feel was left for yourself, because now you had a young family and you just played your last year and were not physically able to perform to play university. So what
yeah.
was you were at a crossroads. What was your mind thinking in terms of where football was going to take you, or if that was it?
Man, honestly, I wasn't too worried about it. I figured it would work out one way or another. It was supposed to, and I was always pretty comfortable knowing I'll be involved with football. Hopefully, one way or another, if when I'm ready to do that. And I think at that point, I was just ready to work and kind of do something that maybe a little bit normal. I've been doing football for a long time, and it was nice to work and do some different things and take a little time, but also help some quarterbacks on the side and jump into high school football. So.
And so you talk a little about jumping with high school football and went down, or had the opportunity to work with a kid who was playing down in Blaine, and how did you have that connection, or what was it that
Man, he
made you
ended up
feel
reaching out to me
inclined?
one day on Instagram. He had known, I'd worked with, helped the quarterback in the past at Blaine come up when he was a little bit younger, showed him some stuff. And, it was natural. He reached out and, I showed him I'll come up and show him some things. I put him through a workout. And next thing you know, he's like, I'm going to go tell my head coach, who I played for as a younger, teenager. He's like, man, I want him to hire you to coach because, like, what do you do? This stuff is crazy. And I was all right, like, I'm not thinking anything of it. And then next thing you know, coach is calling like, hey, Jalen's come down here. He wants you to coach. Whatever you've done with him has been absolutely unreal. And that's how it started. But initially at first I was pretty good on like not being too involved with football, but that's how I started getting into coaching.
So now you have jumped into coaching football. So you talk a lot about the influence of your dad coaching defense when you and your brother were growing up. What was the kind of influence or impact that your father had on coaching that you take on now? And what is it about his impact that influences the way in which you coach, or in which you were inspired to coach?
And so my dad was in the military. So he's not I'm not gonna say he's crazy strict or anything, but he just, general teachings, discipline, respect, listening to someone and just being that same way as a coach, I guess, doing the right thing and just being present in the moment. Just, like the influence it's had on me is he's always been so calm and like, I know you've seen coaches who are really high strung and that's okay. Some guys operate that way, but I guess the one thing I've taken from him is I've always been that pretty calm person. Like, having played quarterback, I've never been that crazy, like, rah, rah, like when some people can operate like that. But even I'm similar as a coach. I'm laid back. We can talk about it, fix it, you know. And for me, that works the best. And I found success working with quarterbacks that way. They respond to it well. They know I'm not gonna jump down, you know, and chew them out. But if it's necessary, it can happen. But just do your job, man, and we'll be okay. And that's definitely the influence he's had on me, is just staying calm and being cool-headed, man.
So your father has had a profound impact on you and your brother. Your brother having been a CFL fullback for how many years now? 14. This is 14 seasons.
Going on 14, yeah.
Yeah, that's breeding tremendous athletes is a fantastic feat. Nothing less. And so, and talk about that discipline, that respect that he instilled in you guys. So now when you go forth into the world, what is it that you take from your experience playing football into how you coach it as well? So you have the influence of your father, but what from your experience as a player has influenced you in trying to be the best coach that you can be?
I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me is just understanding what it's like to be in certain scenarios, and, you know, maybe not the outcome of said scenario, but having been in a similar spot. So I'd say just that understanding of, you know, I'm not going to be hard on a guy, or I've been in that shoes as a quarterback, and that, you know, I've stared down the blitz and made a throw. I'm not telling you to stand in there when I haven't done it, or, you know, and it's just something that comes with the game, obviously playing quarterback. But that's what I would say is just, you know, that understanding as far as that aspect goes, of sometimes you just got to do stuff that's not that fun, but it's for the best of the team, and you just got to do it, man.
How would you define what success means to you in the world of football as a coach or as a player, and how has that definition changed over the years, or what is it about your definition of it that drives you each and every day in the sport?
I guess as far as success in the sport, I mean, obviously small picture, maybe big picture for some, winning, but I think it's just developing people. Like, there's good scenarios in football that, you know, it might be not within a game later on in life, but if something pops up, whether it's adversity, successes, there's just so many things that football and think quarterbacks can do, that it just pops up, and you've been in this scenario before. And I don't know if my definition of success has changed. It's just, I don't know, being a good person, helping people be good people, and hopefully they stay good people. Yeah.
And so with the experiences that you now have gone into, you just coached at Simon Fraser, coaching at a pretty high level of football. Coaching at Simon Fraser is nothing to scoff at, absolutely, considering it now is a part of the American college division as well.
Yeah.
So what was the best thing about your experience at Simon Fraser, and what do you think was the biggest challenge you faced in being in a new role full time through a football season at a high that one of the highest levels?
Man, I'll tell you, the most awesome thing I guess I loved about it would be that ability to really dive in and focus on the game on a level of, you know, it's a big spectrum of time, I guess, that you have to dive into it. And I was really lucky to coach with some awesome coaches, and Mike Regale, who's now head coach. And obviously I learned a lot from Thomas Ford, who's now at the University of Washington. And man, I was so lucky just to be in that circle and sit in those meetings and be able to do that every day. And it's an experience I'll never forget. A challenge would be, I think, it's anything that would come with the job, is really is like you better love football. Like, it's a lot of hours, but if you love football, it's doable. And you know, you spend a lot of time in the office, but to me it's kind of similar as being the player in the locker room. Instead of being with the players all the time, you're with these other coaches, and you have that camaraderie, and it's pretty cool how it works. And you know, it's everyone has their job.
So let me ask you this then. Do you like coaching more or playing more? And obviously they're different dynamics for sure, but what experience do you think is more rewarding for yourself in this present moment in time, or has been?
Man, playing and winning is really fun. I think it's harder, or it's been harder, to coach and win. So I think it's a different kind of challenge, because, you know, when you're the player, like, you're kind of in control of yourself. But some coaches, you can be a really good player, become a coach, but you can't project the player you were onto new players. You have to figure out how to get through the players differently, I guess. So it's what do I like more? Man, love playing, love coaching. Oh, I don't know. I would probably pick playing, I guess, if I had to. I love them both, though. Like they're both awesome, but there's not. I mean, being the player is a moment in time you don't get forever, but neither is coaching. But you get where I'm going. You can coach for a good while if there's something you want to do or pursue. So I'm gonna go playing.
So in terms of how you've been influenced as well, you talk about the family influence. Were there any NFL or CFL players that you looked up to, or any football players for that matter, that you looked up to when you were growing up, when you started playing, and who inspired you to be better, to play a certain style, or what professional impact, or which professional player had a big impact on your experience with football?
Man, as a kid growing up, I was always a Peyton Manning fan, and I guess it's just the way he did things. And I think if you look at his career, obviously he's done some great things, but there was a while there where he was putting up a lot of good numbers and not winning. So he had this label about him that he couldn't win big games. But I was like, I'd probably say Peyton Manning for sure is my biggest influence as a kid. Is like he was awesome, man, and just the way he was able to control and that mystery of thinking like he's really calling all the plays as a kid, and like it was awesome as a kid. And I would definitely say Peyton Manning for sure. He's been probably my biggest influence for sure.
And has that changed as you've gotten more now into coaching, that you have a certain coach you look up to, or a certain coaching style that you try to emulate?
Man, there's a lot of awesome coaches out there. I think it's tough to emulate, I think, any one of their styles, because sometimes it comes down to who they are as a person, really, and not so much what they do X's and O's wise. But man, if I had to pick a coach I like to follow, I mean, I'm a diehard Florida Gators fan, so I've always enjoyed following Dan Mullen, and now that he's back, it's pretty awesome. So as a coach, I really like following what he does, and just how he does things, and the media they put out and access they give is pretty awesome. I think he's the real deal.
And what is it about the Florida Gators that makes you such a big fan of theirs and a diehard fan, considering that you're not from the Southeast Coast or haven't lived in Florida?
Yeah, man, I'm not sure. It's obviously growing up in Vancouver and Northwest Washington. It is like how are you a Florida Gators fan? And honestly, I think it started from the colors, just the blue and orange. I liked it, and then a few players came along that ended up liking. Primarily, my favorite player, Tim Tebow, which is an interesting topic I get a lot, because how do you coach quarterbacks and that's your favorite player? It's like, and I can go into that for days and explain it, but yeah, man, it's Florida Gators are my team for life. I love the colors. I love the stadium, the way they do things. That's my team, man. That's what it is.
I know that there's been a lot of talk over social media and the internet about, specifically about how that Florida Gators team that Tim Tebow led kind of goes a little swept under the rug in terms of a big spotlight, like a documentary or like a Last Dance.
Yeah.
What message do you receive from what that team is able to achieve, which with the insane diversity of players from different backgrounds and different attitudes? And what is it about Tim Tebow? I mean, obviously you can go on for days. We could have multiple episodes, but what is it about Tim Tebow's leadership skills that you believe is the reason why he was able to bring them all together, considering they had like Cam Newton was on that team. And then some people don't know that. That's not as much of a popular thing. They had players with attitude issues or racist views as well. Like how did some religious kid bring all these guys together for South Florida or for North Florida football and be able to be successful?
Man, I mean, obviously, I think that goes to the power of football. If you want to start with the basis of it, of bringing people together from different backgrounds, like there's a lot of people that love football. And I think it's like when you have something in common, like you want to win, or, even if something simple as compete, and you're with other guys in their mindset, I think maybe it's easy to rally and go play and do that type of stuff. As far as what do I like about his leadership and how he was able to do it, I think what I liked about him is to me, he was different than a lot of other quarterbacks. It's like I've met rah-rah quarterbacks, I've met quiet quarterbacks and in between, but there's something about him that can grab a locker room and hold it, and you're not going to lose that focus. I think his will to win was something that you can't measure. And obviously that was a really great team. If you look at the years they were there, and the coaching staff was obviously really good, and it was just the right storm. And as far as how he did it, I'm not sure, man, but they made it work for them. And I do hope we get to see some more insight into that team one day, because like you said, there is some interesting characters in that group that were some really good football players.
So I like the point you mentioned about football bringing people together from many different backgrounds, especially the U.S., a country as diverse as Canada's, even more so you could argue in terms of its size, its population, and the many different groups of people that come from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience with football, what has it been about that factor of bringing people together that you've really seen overcome a lot of boundaries and barriers that exist in place? Obviously, there's been, since the tragic murder of George Floyd in the last week, and in light of the recent events in Minnesota, there's been a lot of talks of, especially with us not having sports or anything, any social outlets. What is it about the game of football that maybe you look forward to coming back to help bring more people together and overcome these barriers?
Man, I mean, like, obviously, if you're a player or coach, it's, it takes everyone to work together. But even from the fan aspect of, we could look different, talk different, be a fan of the same team. And even in that small moment of time could be a positive moment of like, hey, we're cheering for our same team and you look different than me. Like, and I think, football, I know you've seen the thing where people saying, people should see what a football locker room is like. And when you have, like I said, if you have a common goal, and I think it's easy to come together. Now it's probably harder to say for a larger amount of people, but so I get the locker room aspect, but I just think it's a game that draws people in, and it's a time where maybe for that 3-hour window, you do turn your switch off or, relax and just enjoy the moment in time, man.
In your experience with playing football, were there ever moments or instances you had where you felt that there was significant racial barriers that were in effect against maybe some of your teammates or off the field or against yourself or other people that you knew? Or what was your experience like with that divide that we've seen so much in the news over the last week?
Man, it's a unique situation, but even as far as me, I could tell you I've been pretty lucky, man. Like, I haven't experienced anything ill in regards to that in sport. And I like to believe sometimes it's around, you like the people you're around, and I've been around good people for most of the time. And maybe not everyone is as lucky, but I haven't experienced any situation like that myself as far, but it's a unique time, me, myself being biracial. Like, sometimes it is hard to see the stuff said. Like, I am both, I am Caucasian, I am African American, and it's a unique time to be alive, especially United States. But, I think if people want to do the right thing, like I said, if you have a common goal and want to do the right thing, then we'll do the right thing.
I know that there's been a post floating around on social media, specifically in circles of people that have been playing football, of the reminisce of Remember the Titans, and about the central theme of that movie. And can you speak a little bit about what is it about the message of that movie that really relays what we talk about in terms of bringing people together, and when you focus on a goal like what Tim Tebow was able to do and hold a locker room, especially with such a diverse group of people.
I think even with, like, the way you've seen that movie, obviously, I probably wouldn't have watched that movie if my brother wasn't a big fan of it, obviously, in the early 2000s. And, but I think it just shows that, like, you can be different and have that opinion, and then maybe you do get to know someone eventually, and it changes for the positive. And obviously, it's an awesome movie with some true historical events in it, and it's obviously a really good movie that stuck around for years. And I think the message is pretty straightforward, and it's amazing to see how that movie from early 2000s is still being referenced today. Is like, people can do this, man. We can be good people, right?
Absolutely. And I know that football is a game that has such a profound impact on people's lives. And I've made the argument before, and I think many people would agree that football is the greatest team game because it literally requires the best out of every single person on the field at all times, no matter what. It's a sport that you will never find success with a one-man show or one-woman show for any reason. And so that teamwork really breeds discipline, and especially from the experience you've talked about with your dad and your brother, that it's really shown. And how do you translate those elements into the aspects of your life outside of football, within your family, or within how you raise your children, or within how you conduct yourself when you're not in that setting, when you're not a coach, or when you're not seen as a former player?
Man, I think you just get so used to it. As you as a player, I'm sure you've heard the thing is do the right thing even when no one's looking. And I know maybe it's not easy to do that all the time for some people. I get that. But, I think sometimes it's ingrained in you. Some things you keep, some things you throw off to the side. But that's been one of the things I've always kept with me, man. You do the right thing as a teammate. You do the right thing as a leader. You do the right thing as a player. And you just continue to do the right thing as little small things here and there, and they all add up. And, it's just easy to follow at that point, I find, man. And those are all things I'm not sure I would have if I didn't play football. Like, I can't answer that really.
And you talk about before you played basketball now, and obviously it's a team game as well. It's not an individual sport, but I guess the different dynamic of the team aspects could have maybe had a different effect. Maybe, do you think on your views on leadership, et cetera? Because I know that you're a big LeBron James guy, and he's obviously great competitor, great leader, but again, a lot of people point to that, like, you're so good that you can just do it all by yourself. Do you think that if you played basketball longer than football,
basketball is definitely a sport that it can be dominated by one guy? It obviously helps to have some pieces around you, but I don't know even if I never played football, I'm sure I would still have been around it just from my brother and my dad. So I don't know how much my leadership would change as far as that aspect, but I guess it goes back to the basis of who I am: calm, cool, and collected, and just like, man, we're in this together. Let's have some fun and play, and man, let's enjoy it, right?
So you talk about that dynamic you had in terms of still being around football because of your brother and him having played in the CFL and played football. Can you speak a little bit about what it is about that dynamic of brotherhood that you have with Calvin that has been such a positive influence as well on you guys playing sports growing up?
Man, I think like it can be different for people, but I truly think sometimes siblings can be like your number one fan, man. And, you can be honest with them. And even, I'm 5 years old sitting out in the snow watching Calvin practice football when he's young. And, the little things like that we've always had that connection, whether it's even when we lived in Canada, we're in our townhouse playing hall ball, he's waiting in the end zone. I'm trying to dive over, go up over the top. So he had a huge impact on me as far as like that love for football and the funness from it. Like, it was so much fun to have an older brother that played football and like really shared those things with me. And man, we had some fun times.
In terms of so now you get to see your brother continue his career, and what do you think, or what would you say has been the most special moment between you guys as brothers in the scope of his playing career, considering you guys both played football? He's obviously still playing, and you finished it a few years ago, but what is the most special moment between you guys in terms of the game of football? And can you speak to what that means to you in the grand scheme of your lifetime?
Man, that's a good one. I guess just being around him and getting to see all that stuff. But as far as like, I guess my favorite moment, I guess I have two. When I think of him, obviously, I'm glad he's won a Grey Cup, at least one with the team. And honestly, one of the most things I'm proud of him is when he made it to 200 games played in the CFL, and we actually made a video with a bunch of family and friends, and it was a big mashup of all of us congratulating him on the feat. And that was one of like getting to send that video and have a little part in that was probably one of my favorite moments. And just seeing him, even when they won the Grey Cup, like acting like a little kid on the field, picking up it's crazy what winning does at the highest levels, man. It's like being a kid again, right? But that was, for me, that was him playing the 200 game and winning the Grey Cup was my favorite, man.
And actually, that Grey Cup was hosted here in Winnipeg in 2015. I remember wanting Edmonton to win that game because there are some people I know on that team, and from having seen the later translated success after we got to know each other, it was really great to see that, and the longevity of him has definitely been, I'm sure, a very proud point for yourself.
Yeah, real, man. Like, he's like the Terminator. How does he keep doing it? I don't know. But yeah, man, it's, I guess it's that dedication to it, though. He loves it, so it's easy for him to do.
And so now with what's on the horizon for yourself next, what do you see as some of the next steps, or what are some of the next steps you want to take in terms of your career with coaching football, or just how football will impact your life in general with the next venture that you have?
Mm-hmm. I'm just wrapping up some school stuff. Staying involved with it. I'll probably help it, dive into some quarterback work here and there, help out some quarterbacks, whether they're, youth, high school, going into college, staying in college, whatever. And, I'll jump into that and take a little time off, enjoy the time off and spend it with family, obviously. It's been a unique time in the United States. So until we really, open things back up and get kicking and allowed to do a lot of stuff, it'll be a lot of planning going on and just getting ready to go for when we're allowed to do stuff.
So what has been the most important thing for you to focus on during quarantine to put yourself in the best position to succeed once everything reopens in the US, especially there in the state of Washington?
Man, I would just say, if anything involves football, keep acquire information, keep learning new things, look at different, concepts, schemes, different things. Just expose yourself to ways you can learn, even like staying in shape physically, like little things like that. That's everything I've been doing, spending a lot of time with my girls, which is, obviously coaching stuff and just staying involved with football. Hold on. Yeah, man, just, staying in shape physically, staying up to date with new concepts coming out, any little wrinkles, and just staying in tune with the fundamentals of football. There's a lot of information out there you can access or find, and football is a fun game to dive into when you really have the time, and that's just what I've been using it to do, man.
What is the primary way that you expose yourself to different schemes, concepts, and information in terms of developing your football IQ as a coach?
Mm. Man, even nowadays, Twitter is a big tool. Like, there's just so many coaches out there that, they'll put this information out there on Twitter. They'll put it out on YouTube, whether it's clinics, stuff like that. And like, I tell kids all the time, like, a lot of information is there if you just search for it. Like, and it's football's been around a long time, and you can look at a lot of stuff if you really dive into it. And that's just the way I operate, and just use the natural tools available: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. There's a bunch of different stuff going on.
We've just hit the 3-minute warning. Yep. For how much time we have left in our episode, so we're gonna have gonna be like a rapid fire round. 3 minutes warning, just for Canadian football. So
yes.
All right. So first question: favorite football game you've ever watched at the highest, at a high level? It can be NCAA, it can be NFL, it can be CFL. Favorite game you've ever watched?
2009 Florida Gators versus Oklahoma Sooners.
Was that the BCS or was that?
Yep, the BCS championship. Wait, is that 2008? That might be 2008. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Right.
I think it was 2008. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
That was an insane game. That
mhm.
Florida Gators team, like that. There needs to be some big documentary made. Like
I hope so, man. Oh, we need it.
they made one for Catholics versus convicts. They need to make one for 2008 Florida Gators.
They got to, man. There's too much interesting stories on that team.
Craziest play that you've ever witnessed in a game that you were not playing in.
Oh man, this was actually my brother had transferred from junior college to Western Washington University, and I think they were playing Humboldt. And the craziest play I've ever seen, we've been trying to find video of it for years. I promise it happened. He was in the backfield and he ended up running a little running back wheel into the boundary. And the quarterback threw it behind him and the defender was right on him. And, my brother jumps in the air and he tips the ball over the defender and catches it one-handed on the other side of him. And to this day, that's the craziest play I've ever seen. 100%. Like, people were just shook. Like, it was like, how did that happen? Like, and we're trying to find film of it. We know it exists, but you have to see this play if we ever find it. I promise you. That's the craziest play I've ever seen.
That's just like, running backs got hands, and especially when you got great hands like that, it just shocks opponents so much.
Yeah, it's just one of those plays where you don't see a lot, and obviously my brother's some pretty good catches over his career, but that was probably the best one I've ever seen.
Favorite NFL team?
Man, favorite NFL team, the Las Vegas Raiders. I've been waiting for years for them to move. I didn't want to hop on the Oakland bandwagon, but finally that they've moved, that's my favorite team for sure, man. I've always had a lot of, individual players I like, so I've never really latched onto a team, so I've been waiting, and I'm excited.
What is it about Las Vegas that makes you so enamored by them moving there?
Man, I mean, honestly, the first thing for me was like how easy it is to travel there. So it'll be cool to go to games. And I mean, it's just Las Vegas. It's right there. Or, I don't have to go watch the game in the stadium if I don't want to. I can go watch it somewhere on the strip, I'm sure. But, I think it's just easy to get to. It's a cool city. And I think it's going to be awesome, man.
Craziest college football play that you've ever witnessed at the highest level, NCAA Tier 1, Division 1?
The craziest play I've ever witnessed will be, I'm going to stick with the hook and ladder by Boise State to score the touchdown versus Oklahoma before they ran the Statue of Liberty. I'm going to go with the hook and ladder because that type of play requires a lot of stuff to go right, and it went very right. I'm going to stick with that one for sure. Craziest play.
That play I remember watching that as a kid in 2007. It was just on SportsCenter, and all the replays was nuts. I couldn't even believe what I saw.
No way. This is not happening. But you could see the play developing of this guy crossing the field. Like, why is he still running across the field? And the moment he got that ball, it was like, he's really going to do this. And to me, that's one of the craziest plays, man, I've ever seen for sure. It's not close.
If there was one game that you could have been at to witness in football history, any professional or college game that you would have been there to witness, maybe besides the BCS Bowl in 2009, which one would it be? To have been there live to watch it happen.
I'm going to go with the New England Patriots versus Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl. I'm going to go with that one. To see it, obviously, on TV was crazy. I think to experience maybe the emotions within the stadium, it would have been even more wild just to see, like, the shift in the ride and emotions. And that's the game for me I would want to go to.
Of course, Patriots fans, greatest moment ever. Everyone else in the NFL, worst moment ever. But at the end of the day, as an objective football fan, you can't deny the fact that swing of emotion and momentum is the craziest that has ever existed in NFL history, especially at the magazine.
That was, in my opinion, that was the game that stamped Tom Brady as one of the better quarterbacks to ever play. 100%.
Tom Brady cemented a legacy with that game, no doubt. And And now with his move to Tampa Bay, who knows what will be in store considering the Patriots host the Buccaneers, not this season, but next. That'll be a sellout for the ages.
We'll see what he brings to the table, man. This should be good.
Well, Jordan, I want to thank you so much for your time here on the second episode of Huddle Up. And is there any last words that you want to mention to all the listeners out there, and or any words of advice?
Man, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for having me on, and I look forward to continue watching you grow this thing, man.
I appreciate that very much. And Jordan, thank you again so much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the second episode of Huddle Up with Matias Bueno. Jordan McCarty, quarterback, coach, player, tremendous man. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, man.